Hi everyone, nice day Tano here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and it is time for a review of the new Aries record, Welcome Home. This is a brand new collection of tracks from singer, songwriter, producer, and YouTube content creator Aries. You may not be aware of this guy if you're not deep into the YouTube music-osphere, but this dude hosts a pretty popular series where he recreates a lot of very popular hip-hop beats from scratch within a certain span of time. He obviously makes his own music on the side as well, though it's something that's never really stopped me in my tracks up until this point. However, I did get some suggestions to listen to his new album over here. I was kind of curious, given that I've enjoyed his content in the past, so gave it a shot, and surprisingly, it's pretty good. Going into this, I didn't really know what to expect other than I thought it was most likely going to be hip-hop influenced given what of Aries stuff I've heard in the past. We have 9 tracks and 25 minutes of runtime on this project, and it delivers a pretty sweet and clean blend of moody modern trap, some emo, a little bit of pop, and some singer-songwriter music. Either inadvertently or totally on purpose, Aries has miraculously crafted a pretty decent contribution to the current wave of emo trap and emo rap music. I think he does a great job of bringing these two genres and worlds together without necessarily boiling his combination down to the most basic and derivative and gimmicky elements of each. And it's kind of funny, given this style, this sound has been rising to a simmer for a little while now, and then all of a sudden this dude comes out of left field on YouTube and whoa, he's actually crafting some pretty compelling and substantive and introspective songs set to trap beats, as well as pianos, guitars, and synths. Aries' vocal delivery is also pretty melancholic and smooth. I think on this project, Aries does a pretty decent job of sidestepping the track list bloat and the depression glorification, as well as the unnecessary edginess that I think has plagued this style up until this point. And it feels weird saying this, but I can't help but comment that some of the best tracks on this thing feel like what Russ's music would sound like if it wasn't so, no, bye-bye, I'm not listening to this, bye-bye. When listening to this, I'm also reminded of artists like Post Malone, because I see his work in a similar light, in that Post is very much a singer-songwriter at heart who is using these modern trends in hip-hop and pop music at large to just kind of get his songwriting across. Aries is very much in the same boat, as there are plenty of tracks on this thing that you could easily transcribe over to an acoustic context or performance. The vibe of this project overall is pretty easygoing and chill, even if it is a bit dreary. However, this does not stop the hooks and the vocal lines on this thing from popping. There are a lot of lyrics on this project about missing people, love on the rocks, texting, blacking out, drinking or taking pills to kind of take your woes or your emotional pain away. In the grander scheme of hip-hop and emo trap right now, nothing altogether new. It's a little tortured, kind of melodramatic, and occasionally gets overly sentimental. Lyrically, a little corny at points, though I will say the somber tone of the record and the very slick presentation of the instrumentation does take the edge off of that quite a bit. I would actually argue the appeal of this record is so immediate and so sweet to the ear that the darkness of the lyrics may not be apparent right away. Some of the quick, snappy, and sad highlights for me on this project are cuts like Sayonara, with its twangy and twinkly guitars right at the start of the track, which sound like they are lifted right out of an emo song. Eventually, the track transitions into some cute little dusty lead melodies and a steady trap beat. And Aries produced a really hypnotic beat on this one. It's amazing how mesmerizing it is, especially when the flow on his hook pops in. Not enough, pull it up, move it to the side, run her up, bug around, never let me by. The song DEITY also stood out to me, but where is this track coming from? Where is this song coming from? The way Aries sings on the hook of this track, it sounds like something out of a very radio-friendly alternative metal song from like 15 years ago. The prominent acoustic guitar on this track also leads me to believe that this is kind of like a key influence here. The verses on this track also seem like something Weeknd fans would really, really love, with an extra heaping helping of angst thrown in for good measure. I can't exactly look at some of this stuff, the lyrics I mean, and relate. Some of it really doesn't resonate with me, as I've never really been or wanted to be a moody poet, Lothario gossiper. But I will say, between the production and his vocal delivery, Aries is certainly very good at making this world his music exists within seem like his own personal hell. It's certainly to the point where the track Amy's Grave, which is a very despondent track on this album, features these lines of, take me away, why should I care what happens to me? I don't know, even though these phrases may not seem all that profound poetically, Aries gives them, I think, a certain amount of poetic weight in just how serious these proclamations feel. It's at this point where I think the quality of the project begins to trail off a little bit, though. The song Pony I found to be kind of lackluster in comparison with how accessible and instantly catchy many of the other tracks in the track list are. On top of that, I thought the vocals were a bit more washed out than they were on every other cut here. Carousel and Santa Monica, aesthetically and instrumentally, are also decent moments here, but the songs at this point on the record are either feeling so breezy or almost like Aries is kind of painting himself into a corner. His flows, his topical focus, the melodies that he tends to favor, there's not a whole lot of variety or contrast. Again, maybe that's because this is such a short and kind of an inaugural project for him. He's very clearly still developing his sound, whatever that is going to be. Even within this pretty short runtime, though, the well does begin to run dry, as it just begins to feel like I'm listening to very similar lyrical and melodic and rhythmic ideas, just sort of worked at different angles. The closing track on here, though, even though I'm not crazy about it, I do admire it for getting kind of ambitious and trying to end this project off on a high note. The glistening pianos at the start of the track, along with the vocals, almost feel like something out of a Coldplay song. Eventually, the track reaches a very powerful and almost cinematic vocal climax, but almost immediately after that, the track kind of fizzles out and just disappears. In a way, it feels like it was in a rush to be over, even though it's the longest song on the entire record. Overall, Welcome Home, I think, is a pretty sweet project and a record that I think should be acknowledged as a decent contribution, again, to this current wave of emo trap and singer-songwriter-based hip-hop music. But going forward, I would love to hear Aries mix it up a little bit. In the production, I would love to hear more texture, more teeth, more adventure. The vocals occasionally are a bit too one-dimensional and underwhelming, like on the opening cut here. When Aries does hit a vocal high and he reaches into his upper register or gives a very passionate or compelling performance, it's great. It's just not the case, though, for every track here. And as far as the songwriting goes, while I do love the catchier and the more to-the-point songs on this record, if you're ever going to build a larger, more ambitious project out, you're going to need more dimensions, more phases. Welcome Home is a pretty likable project and something I think is going to have me kind of keeping my ears on Aries for a little bit just to see where he moves next. Even if, again, it's not blowing me away from front to back, there are some amazing songs in the track list here. I'm feeling a decent 2 strong 6 on this thing. Transition, have you given this album a listen? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you rate it? You're the best, you're the best. What should I review next? Hit the like if you like. Please subscribe, please don't cry. Hit the bell as well. Over here next to my head is another video that you can check out. Hit that up or the link to subscribe to the channel. Anthony Fantano, Aries, welcome home forever.